So The Boys continues its dark satire take on the superhero genre in such an outrageous way in this 4th season, and there are certain moments that I cannot believe they were able to get away with. So let's look at the 3 most shocking moments from this season. So first of all, we have to talk about Homelander returning back to his childhood laboratory, and I just think from the get-go, that sequence was just so intense. First of all, Homelander just reliving all of his childhood trauma, as well as the fact that, you know, this character is so unhinged, so you just do not know what on earth he's going to do in the next sequence, and I feel like you can just feel all of the fear in all of the scientists, and they are just trying so hard to remain calm, to try to persuade Homelander to not do anything too crazy. And I feel like when his mother figure, there's just so much social commentary you can make with Homelander and mother figures. But when she just said to him, you know, you could have left at any moment if you wanted to, but I feel like this also does have a lot of commentary about social conditioning and the fact that this child, even though he is so overwhelmingly superpowered, he was led to believe that he couldn't leave this establishment, even though he could. And then I love the way in which they do revisit this with Ryan. And actually, he has been taught that he is a really powerful person from the get-go, and so was able to leave this, even though, of course, he did it in a horrible way because he killed Mallory in the process. But I just feel like, you know, all of the ways in which Ryan is going to have a very different childhood to Homelander, I think is so interesting, as well as the fact that in this sequence, Homelander just went full-on Joker, especially that sequence where he is laughing at that scientist. So uncomfortable and so shocking at the same time. So now we have to talk about the most outrageous sequence that I honestly cannot believe that they were able to even film this, which is of course Tech Knight's sex dungeon. And first of all, I think it was absolutely unbelievable that they were able to get away with the fact of making fun of Spider-Man as they were making Web Weaver this sex-obsessed character. And then just all of the trauma that poor Huey has to go through across this entire season, pretty much every single episode, is really damaging the Huey character. And of course here he is being completely sexually abused, which was just so uncomfortable to watch. And they don't really revisit Huey's trauma and the way that he is just so broken. First of all, his father has passed away. He's then had to kill someone with Kamiko, and now all of this stuff. I just hope that they really do explore this in the next season. And then on a lighter note, I love the fact that they made fun of the D23 Expo as well as Comic-Con with the V52, the V52. The 52 is of course referring to DC's 52 universe, so I just feel like they just did such a good job. And there were just so many brilliant one-liners. For example, you know, we're doing the reshoots of the reshoots of the reshoots, so of course it's going to be absolutely brilliant. Just spending outrageous amounts of money, making fun of the fact that there were so many phases and so many movies that have been announced before they're even going into production. And Tech Knight, speaking of Tech Knight, when he was announcing the fact that, you know, it's been over a year since his last movie, so it's of course time for a reboot. So I think all of those references were just absolutely brilliant. So now let's talk about the ending. So I feel like the way in which season 4 ended was just so wicked. I mean, first of all, the revelation that Kessler this entire time has just been a voice inside Billy Butcher's mind, I think is really, really good. I feel like when movies and TV shows do have this revelation, it is pretty shocking. For example, in Fight Club, of course, we saw that with Joe Goldberg, and Kessler convinces him to unceremoniously kill Victoria Newman after she had finally agreed to join the boys. Now, I feel like the actress was really gracious with this, as she was like, look, I joined the boys really late, so of course the final season should be focused on the people that started this show. But that being said, I feel like she was such a brilliant character, and I feel like there was just so much more storyline potential with Victoria Newman, as she is such a powerful character and you don't really know which side she is going to ultimately side with. And Homelander got his wish come true, which was of course to expose her, which he definitely did do when he laser beamed her on national TV. And everybody apart from Billy Butcher has now been captured, and I love the return of Sam and Kate. So I feel like all of the Gen V characters are really, really good, and I just cannot wait to see all of them hopefully combining in the final season. And now Homelander has got his wish of martial law in terms of superheroes now being the government effectively and just ruling over everybody. And of course we've got Soldier Boy back, we'll talk about Soldier Boy in a minute, and we've got the cure/antidote to Compound V in Billy Butcher's hands. So what is he going to do with this? We'll hopefully see in the next season. Now, speaking of the next season, I actually think this time Soldier Boy could partner up with Homelander, as of course he is his father. And we've had these two competing with one another in the previous season, but how almighty would it be if they're actually on the same team? And I think Ryan is also going to join them, as in a similar vein, we've seen Ryan against Homelander in previous seasons and always wanting to side with Billy Butcher so desperately. But after Billy Butcher's pretty much, in his opinion, kind of thrown him into the wolves in terms of wanting to trap him and then ultimately just turn him into a weapon, maybe this is going to be the thing that pushed him over the edge to ultimately join Homelander. And Sister Sage said that, you know, phase 2 is going to kick off soon, and she is the ultimate puppet master and chess player, so I definitely do think that, you know, she is playing the long game with the ambition of bringing Soldier Boy and Ryan onto Homelander's team, which really will mean that he is just truly unstoppable. But at the same time, there are loads of other characters out there, so Billy Butcher, of course, will be using his venom powers to try to cause a bit of mayhem. We've got Queen May, maybe she will get her powers back. We've got A-Train out there. We've got all of the Gen V characters. We've got Starlight now. So I do think, you know, Billy Butcher's team against Homelander is pretty formidable at the same time. Now let's go through all of the characters. So I feel like Antony Starr is just unbelievable as Homelander. Just such brilliant acting in every single scene that he is in. He is truly insanely epic, and I just love the fact that he is just written so deeply, as you could have a character like this being pretty one-dimensional, but actually he is so layered and he just wants adoration from everybody. As if he wanted to, he could destroy everybody, he could force himself as the leader of the world, but actually he wants it through everyone's adoration. He wants everybody to help him. Some of his thoughts are really dark, for example, seeing humans as toys, but everybody just wants to please Homelander. So I just think this character is not only incredibly complex, but is just so fascinating to watch. Now, Karl Urban plays his opposite in Billy Butcher in such a good way, and there was so much mirroring between these two characters, even though, of course, Billy Butcher is so depowered. I mean, if Homelander wanted to, he could wipe Billy Butcher out of the face of the earth, but he chooses to keep him alive because he realizes that he is his only real threat from a planning perspective. And I think it's interesting, as Billy Butcher was pretty sidelined because of the fact that he's dying across this season, but then in the final couple of episodes, he really does come back in the way that you know and love him to be. Of course, some people did predict that Kessler was also a voice in Billy's head in the same way that Becca was, and the way in which he actually talked to her was just so brilliant. But I think Tesla's a little bit different, as he is kind of the true essence of his venom powers. And Billy Butcher as a character is now just so relentless and will do whatever he needs to do in order to achieve his aim. Jack Quaid plays Huey to perfection. Like I said, he goes through so much this season. First of all, his father is of course on his deathbed in a coma. He's very nearly going to give him Compound V, but then he decides not to. But then his mother does, which brings this character back. But Simon Pegg's Huey Sr. is actually really unstable because he is so sick. So even though Huey can say goodbye to him, which is really nice, I feel like the fact that he has to just see him dying on multiple occasions must just be so traumatic for this character. And then he has to go through all of the sexual abuse, and then he has to kill someone with Kimiko, which may just be a nod to his Scream 5 persona, but I just feel like nonetheless, this character, like I said, just goes through so much. And Erin Moriarty, I feel like just does such a good job also as Annie and Starlight. First of all, she is pushed right to the edge by Firecracker. She's not able to tap into her powers in the way that she would like to. And then I feel like all of the sequences with Shapeshifter, where she was able to play two different characters on screen at the same time, she definitely rose to the occasion with that. And speaking of rising to the occasion, she finally does get her powers back right at the end. And I feel like that sequence was so good, as she is now more powerful than ever. So I cannot wait to see her next season. Chace Crawford is always really funny as the Deep, but this time you get to see a really sinister and dark side to this character. And speaking of Sister Sage being the puppet master, she definitely did whisper some evil things in his ear in terms of telling him, look, you're more powerful than humans, so you should be dominating over them. And I feel like those words have just stuck with this character, as first of all, he was destroying his octopus lover when she was trying to give him some good advice, and then he just revels in causing so much abuse and destruction and death, and just encourages Black Noir to do this at the same time. I love the fact that this new Black Noir is able to fly, and I just hope that they do give this character a little bit more to do, as he has got the potential of being a pretty interesting character. And I hope that Starlight and A-Train are able to team up together to ultimately bring the Deep down. Speaking of A-Train, I love the fact that very similarly to Starlight, he is kind of joining the boys' team, and pretty much every single episode he has to do something that could put his life on the line, but then he is able to escape with his family ultimately, which I think is a nice ending for this season with this character. MM is such a cool character as well. He's trying so hard to be the leader of the boys, but ultimately he decides that, you know, Billy Butcher is best positioned for this. Ashley, I feel like, is is really interesting as well. Sister Sage, speaking of her, she really was the puppet master, was able to really diminish the contribution that Ashley is able to bring. But then when she injects herself with Compound V, I wonder what she's going to turn into. Maybe a little bit like the Hulk / the leader. I loved Victoria Newman as well. We did see a softer, nicer side to this character, both as a maternal figure as well as a daughter figure to Giancarlo Esposito's character, who she helped escape, so he's going to be really pivotal next season. I do actually think that Victoria Newman is definitely going to come back somehow. And Kamiko and Frenchie, all of their sequences I think were decent, but definitely weren't at the same level as everybody else's. But I loved the fact that she was able to finally find her voice right at the end of the season when she finally had Frenchie. I was on the road to having a nice romantic future with him, but then was screaming in agony as of course he is now being taken away into one of Tech Knight's privatized prisons. So I feel like, you know, season 4 of The Boys was overall pretty decent. And I think some of the pop culture social commentary, both from a political perspective as well as from a D23 perspective, as well as the Mortal Kombat sequences, which you definitely could see. And I feel like the whole NetherRealm partnership of getting Omni-Man and Homelander in there did allow them to have very similar fight sequences to Mortal Kombat. And I just feel like The Boys world just lends itself to that so well. So I kind of wait to see what's going to happen in season 5. Literally all bets are off, as any character can die. Eric Kripke did actually say that a lot of characters will die, so I feel like it's just going to be unmissable and gripping viewing. But as far as season 4 is concerned, I'm going to give it a solid 7 out of 10. Now I'd love to hear from you. What did you think of season 4 of The Boys? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and I look forward to seeing you in my next video.